Welcome to the Gabriel Method Show. I'm John Gabriel, author and creator of the Gabriel Method, a diet-free approach to sustained weight loss. And we're excited to be launching the premiere of Lose the Stress, Lose the Weight, Tapping for Weight Loss. And as part of the launch, I'm very pleased today to be joined by tapping expert Dr. Craig Weiner. We'll discuss Craig's work and then do a tapping sequence together. Dr. Craig Weiner is a leader in mind-body healing for nearly 30 years, weaving together traditional forms of physical healing as a chiropractor and body worker with energetic and emotional healing techniques such as EFT and matrix re-imprinting with a passion for interpersonal neurobiology and trauma work. Together with his wife, Alina Frank, they train individuals and healthcare providers in the art and science of tapping through their company EFTtappingtraining.com. In addition, he's created the Transformational Dialogues, which are in-person and on-radio discussions with world-renowned change agents facilitating transformation and healing on the planet. As you're listening to learn more about Dr. Weiner and his work, please visit EFTtappingtraining.com. So Dr. Weiner, as a chiropractor, you've worked with patients for over 2 decades. How did you get involved with energy medicine and tapping?
You know, it's a long story that I'll make short, but I was a chiropractor, massage therapist. I'd been working in integrative health for many years, and I'd always promoted different types of healing modalities. I actually started a program called Transformational Dialogues, where I was introducing different kinds of mind-body interventions to my patients here in the Seattle area. And I had recently seen a talk with Bruce Lipton and Rupert Sheldrake, who I'm sure you know, and they were speaking in like a living room type of situation on a stage. And I said, you know what, I'm going to make my dialogues just like that, comfortable, informative. And I decided to challenge myself to something I didn't know anything about. And I'd been reading Dr. Joe Mercola's work on EFT at that time.
Yeah.
So I challenged myself to find somebody locally that was working, doing EFT. And I actually found this woman, Alina Frank, who I ended up finding out about EFT from and marrying later. So
Right.
Long story short is tapping came to me in one of those serendipitous synchronistic type stories, but I've really always been interested in where mind, body, psyche, spirituality, energy meet.
Sure. So can you kind of explain to us how painful experiences can lead to changes in the body that can cause weight gain and how we can use tapping to reverse that?
Sure. You know, there's a lot of different pieces to that in a good story. I think the easiest things, and I know you know this, is that when we're in chronic states of stress, when we're in negative emotions of fear, shame, long-term anger, resentment, all of these things really set off part of our nervous system that most people know is our fight or flight system, right? And it's one thing if we have a bear chasing us that kicks into gear, but if it's always there, if the bear is always coming home, if the bear is always chasing us, like many people are under so much stress, what it does is it shuts down what we call our prefrontal cortex, that part of our brain that helps us not act in a moment, not react, be reasonable. So when we're under this chronic stress, basically we're basically creating adrenaline, cortisol, all these different hormones that in a sense shut down our reasoning ability. So what happens is we live in this state of chronic stress. It affects everything, our immunity, our weight gain, et cetera, because cortisol, as we know, deposits fat. And so what we have is we have this situation that, especially in EFT, things that remind us of a traumatic situation, of things that have happened, things that remind us of things that make us feel negative. And so our brain and our nervous system, our body sits in a place that basically responds to what we think and feel.
Yeah.
What I would like to just give you a great story about that's really important with this, and I don't think many people know about its origins, but it's fascinating, is something called the ACEs study.
Mm-hmm.
So what's called adverse childhood experiences. So there was this physician named Dr. Folletti in San Diego at Kaiser Permanente, and he ran a weight loss clinic for 5 years. I mean, with really obese people from 300, 400, 500, 600 pounds. And we're talking about working with these people to try to see ways that they knew at that time back in the 80s how to reduce their weight because they knew the health effects of living like that. And so what they did was they ran this clinic and they were trying to figure out why about half the people were leaving. Half the people would leave the study. And when they looked at it closer, they found that the ones that were leaving the study were the ones that actually had been successful in losing weight. Which was really very fascinating. You'd think those would be the people that would be continuing. So I actually just found this out recently. When they began the investigation, they started looking into all the medical records, what would explain their weight gain, for example, and their wanting to leave. So they looked at, for example, birth weights when people were born, and they found normal birth weights. They really couldn't find anything until one day Dr. Felitti was speaking with a young woman. And totally by accident, he was asking her medical history, her social history, what age she got her period, and what age, he was about to ask in what age she began being sexually active as part of the medical history. But instead, he said, "How much did you weigh when you first became sexually active?" Total error in his mistake. And she said 40 pounds.
40 pounds. She
40
wait.
pounds. He said she weighed 40 pounds. And he
Okay.
looked at her and he said just that. And then she said, "I was 4 years old and it was with my father."
Yeah.
So he was thinking to himself, okay, this is very interesting. Within the next week, he had another case of incest. And he started to find, as he used his other colleagues, that half the people they were interviewing had had some form of, for example, sexual abuse. And the further they looked, the more that they found that people that had really gained a lot of weight and were unsuccessful in you losing it in the long term were people that had a lot of trauma early in their childhood.
Yeah, we talk a lot about that in the Gabriel method. That sometimes people use weight as a form of protection from being abused and trauma. I had a lady call me once and tell me that she was abused by a babysitter from the age of 10 to 13, and the whole time that she was being abused, she was gaining weight and gaining weight until she had gained so much weight, the babysitter stopped abusing her. So what happened was the weight became a form of protection, and I found that in a vast majority of people that have had serious weight issues, is that the weight somehow is somehow being used as a form of protection.
And that's absolutely correlates with what they found.
Yeah,
And in fact, some of the quotes in the study were that they didn't see their overweightedness as a problem.
yeah,
In fact, it was a solution.
yeah,
It helped them to protect themselves in many ways. And
yeah,
so when we start to look at the traumas that people go through, of course, they're really predominant in childhood because they affect brain development. They affect the reward cascade pathways. They still happen, obviously, into adulthood, but they're much more prominent and longer acting, in a sense, with childhood affecting of the brain very early on. So, yes, so I absolutely agree that when we look at this paradigm that you're proposing and an AFT that we're talking about, is that weight and many other health issues, especially in forms of addiction where we're really looking to reduce the craving, when we're really looking to reduce the anxiety and the
yeah.
stress, that many of them are emotionally based.
Yeah, and Dr. Kristen Northrup also says that so sometimes weight is not the problem. Weight's this perceived solution to a problem. So you have to
Exactly.
address the problem. So we're always looking for ways of addressing the real problem. And you use EFT and tapping to address the real problem. And I'm wondering if you could tell us a bit about how you do that.
Sure. Well, I'd say the one thing is that, I've been a chiropractor for a long time, so most people come to me with some form of physical problem, often beginning with pain, right? So that's why the majority of my patients come. But once we start to discuss their health and their health concerns, weight, of course, is also an issue. And, that often comes up a lot with even people knowing that I think a lot of my back pain is probably connected to this extra weight that I haven't been able to lose. So it's not uncommon that that comes up in the course of us working together. The first thing that I often need to do in a gentle way is to see if they have an understanding of the connection
Yeah.
between their physical symptoms and physical problems with what they think and feel and behaviors, et cetera. And these days, I would say people are much more amenable to understanding that mind-body connection than they used to be, right? Because it used to be
Well,
called psychosomatic, for
right, and
example.
we've learned for so long that weight's just about willpower and discipline, and you're just supposed to eat less, and it's calories in, calories out, and there's no other components to
Exactly.
it. And I was even speaking with a psychologist just yesterday who's had 35 years experience working with weight, and she just said the reason people are overweight is because there's all this good food around. And that's the only reason. I'm thinking to myself, well, how do you explain my situation where there's still all this good food around, yet I'm 220 pounds lighter than I was 10 years ago, and I've been this way for 10 years, and I eat whatever I want, whenever I want, with all this good food around. How do you explain that? And you can't explain it
You
under
can't you
under
can't
that
explain
paradigm. You have to
right.
address the real issues. So, yeah, so I know you work a lot with tapping and cravings also.
Right.
And I'm wondering if are there any research that shows how tapping can be effective not only for weight loss but for cravings and things like that.
Yeah, that's really important, and it's actually really exciting to say yes.
Yeah.
So there have actually been two important studies, really two research reports based on the same study. So Dr. Peter Stapleton in in Australia, with Bond University, is actually the author and her team. So this is what's really interesting because cravings are what often will drive excess weight gain, especially in high fatty foods. So when we start looking at the cravings, it's kind of a preventative approach. We're getting to the person before they've actually had their fix. So if we can work with decreasing cravings, theoretically we're able to reduce the desire for the food, which reduces the consumption, et cetera. So that's what they studied, and what they did in the study that was published in the Journal of Energy Psychology was that they took, I think it was about 93 people, and it was mostly women, mostly over 40. And what they did was they took EFT and they gave it to this group. They had a wait list other group, and they did it for 2 hours. I think it was once a week for about 4 weeks.
Hmm.
And then they encouraged them to continue the homework. And they measured a lot of scales. So what they did was they wanted to measure first weight and BMI, right? So physical scales, but really subjectivity, like when we're talking about cravings. So we're talking about scales that are like their ability to restrain themselves, the power of food index. So they looked at these restraint scores, food craving scores, and they looked at them before the tapping intervention and then after the tapping intervention. And the nice thing was they also did these in groups, which is a really important way to look at that. People could do them in a group process as well. So after those 4 weeks, they then asked them to continue tapping on the cravings, and then they remeasured 6 months later, right? So when they measured them, the things that they also taught about in the classes were they learned to do how EFT, they learned how EFT worked, they learned the nature of food cravings, they learned the connection between feeling of food, they learned also about EFT for stress reduction to actually reduce relapse is afterwards.
Yeah.
And then they measured. And what they found was significantly reduced food cravings, significantly decreased what they call power of food index, increased restraint in cravings, and those were maintained after 6 months,
Wow.
which was really important. But there wasn't any weight loss in that first study,
Hmm.
which was interesting.
That is interesting.
However,
Yeah.
it came back 6 months later. They measured the same things. And then they found an average of 11 pounds of weight loss.
See, what's interesting about that is, we were talking just before about addressing the real issues, and I find with a lot of people that we work with, I might spend 6 months with them just focusing on the real issues if they've had a serious trauma in their life, and that's when the weight comes off. The weight doesn't come off. It's not like a diet where you force yourself to lose weight 40 pounds in 40 days and then you try to keep it off and then you have this big rebound and you feel like you've self-sabotaged and the whole thing goes out the window and blah, blah, blah. It's the exact opposite. Their weight stays stable, then the cravings start to go away. Exactly what you're saying. They say, I'm just not that hungry anymore. And then the weight starts to come off. And so sometimes when you address the real issues, I think as part of the paradigm shift, people need to be aware that the process of losing weight by addressing the real issues is a different curve of weight loss. It's not an instant thing and then
Right.
rebound. It's a stable
Right.
thing and then gradual type of thing. So do you have some success stories you can share with us that as far as tapping for both health and weight loss?
Sure. The one I was thinking about when you started to say that was so my wife and I, we train people in EFT tapping. And a woman had come to us recently that had found tapping, I believe it was online or read a manual, et cetera, and had started it on herself and had lost 50 pounds. And the way that she had done that was actually by tapping on her cravings as she went up and down the aisles in the store.
Yeah.
So when she knew that it worked, she said, I got to really learn how to do this so I can help other people, and came to us and then continued in that process. So that was beautiful. What we see in our trainings too all the time is that part of our actually level one training is working with cravings.
Yeah.
So we actually have people bring in their craving of choice, their chocolate, their chips, their salty, their carb, whatever it is, they're caffeinated something. So whatever it is they're craving, we come in and we get amazing results just beginning in the very first teaching of the cravings, that we've gotten many, many reports when people continue to work on the issues around the cravings, that then the cravings go down. And in fact, going back to the Stapleton study, for those people after a year, most of the ones that responded and continues to stay in communication, most of them could no longer remember what their original craving was.
Yeah, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, which is fabulous.
Cool. Well, so do you have maybe a tapping sequence you can lead us through that might be useful for us when we're out in the field and having cravings, or to work through our issues? Or
yeah, well, here's what I'd like to do. My first, I guess, caveat that I'd like to say is that any really thorough work that anybody does with tapping, I believe, is going to be very specific to them. So by nature, anything that we do generally like this is general and not for the specific person. And also knowing that because such a high percentage of weight loss issues have to do with self-image, that have to do also often with big T or little t traumas, that I'm really going to strongly encourage people to work with those more difficult ones with somebody else in professional and not just on their own.
Right.
But given that, I would like to work with something. So I'll say a few things just before we start it. Number one, for those people unfamiliar with EFT, we're going to be tapping on those different meridian points. So we'll be using those. We'll be doing a modified self-acceptance statement. I'll be asking you, for example, to check in somatically with where you feel it in your body. So I'll be leading you, and you're going to be following me back. Yep. And the thing that I'd like to focus on with this tapping sequence is basically what I think is the perennial 6-year-old in most of us. And I call them the I don'ts. And basically it comes down to the I don't wanna, I don't have to, and you can't make me. And so that part of us, literally, that food is one of those things that we can, on one hand, feel like we're out of control, but on the other hand, we exert a lot of control. Like, you can't make me do this is a really important part, that when we've got a lot of challenges inside, it's one place where we can put our foot down and stop.
Yeah.
Right? So I think it's important to address that, because we all have that to some degree.
Yeah.
Okay, so given that, what I'm going to have you do first is I'm going to just ask you for a second, if you just thought about it, closed your eyes, checked in, and just made it relatable to you for something, and we'll just say it's a food craving for a moment, because that's kind of what we're working with, or it has something to do with weight loss for you, and there's a part of you that has that feeling, it's like, I don't wanna, I don't have to because you say so, or anybody says so, and you can't make me, and just take a note in where you kind of sense that, if you do anywhere in your body.
Okay.
And would you mind saying that out loud? And
that would be in my stomach, just to the right of my belly button.
Perfect. So on the right side of your belly button, your stomach. Excellent. Okay. And if we were to say the intensity of that, I don't want to, you can't make me, 0 to 10, 0 is no intensity, 10's the most, what would you give it?
I mean, since I'm not coming to you with an issue, I have to sort of like make it an issue. So we're, in reality, it's probably like, maybe a 5, something like that.
Good. So let's just go with that. And so that everybody is listening is going to just kind of take a moment here and check in, something with regard to a craving, something with regard to weight loss we're going to be working with, and just check in with how strong is that feeling is, I don't want to, I don't have to, and by God, you can't make me.
Yeah.
And you just want to check in on that 0 to 10, what we call SUDS intensity scale. And we'll start off, find out where it is in the body. For you, it's in the stomach. So we're going to start off with tapping on our karate chop point, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, and we're going to start off, and you repeat back after me. So here's a typical scenario we might do. Even though my partner is being really nice and supportive.
Even though my partner is being really nice and supportive.
About my weight, but I really know that they want me to lose some weight.
About my weight, but I really know that they want me to lose some weight.
And part of me says I really should lose some weight.
And part of me says I really should lose some weight.
But I don't want to, I don't have to, and I really don't want to, and nobody can make me.
But I don't want to, I don't have to, and I really don't want to, and no one can make me.
Good. And even though there's a part of me that feels that way.
And even though there's a part of me that feels that way.
I still accept that that's how I feel.
I still accept that that's how I feel.
Good. Even though my partner says it's just fine.
Even though my partner says it's just fine.
But I know they're not really attracted to me.
But I know they're not really attracted to me.
Not the way they used to be.
Not the way they used to be.
And I know I should lose some weight.
And I know I should lose some weight.
But you know what? There's a part of me.
But you know what? There's a part of me.
That says, I don't want to, I don't have to, and you can't make me.
That says, I don't want to, I don't have to, and you can't make me.
And even though there's a part of me that feels that way.
And even though there's a part of me that feels that way.
I still accept that that's how I feel.
I still accept that that's how I feel.
And even though with my partner I try to dress in ways
And even though with my partner I try to dress in ways
that try to kind of cover up my body parts that I don't like so much.
that try to cover up my body parts that I don't like so much.
And I know I really should lose some weight.
And I know I really should lose some weight.
There's a part of me, though,
There's a part of me, though,
that says,
that says,
I don't wanna, I don't have to, and you can't make me.
I don't want to, I don't have to, and you can't make me.
And even though part of me feels that way,
And even though part of me feels that way,
I still completely accept that that's the way I feel.
I still completely accept that that's the way I feel.
Good. So we're going to go right here now.
Okay?
I don't want to on
Okay.
the eyebrow. I don't want to.
I don't want to.
I don't have to.
I don't have to.
You can't make me.
You can't make me.
I don't want to.
I don't want to.
I don't have to do that.
I don't have to.
And you can't make me.
And you can't make me.
Good. Top of the head and take a deep breath in. Good. Just take a deep breath in. And so what I would ask with somebody now is go ahead, take a deep breath, glass, a sip of water if you'd like to, and check in with your body and check in your stomach right here and just notice if it still feels like a 5.
Yeah, so what I notice is that that area feels number. There doesn't feel a connection there anymore. So I don't feel like I feel like I can't feel that part of me, like it's been cut off is what is really the way I would describe it. It doesn't have a sensation anymore.
So there's no sensation anymore. Okay.
I would have to look for it. It's not.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to work on, I'm going to do 3 rounds with you just to give a different segment of the population that's listening another way that I would work with that.
Yeah.
So let's just say for a moment that we are working on a different aspect right now. Okay. And let's just say it's in the same place for you right now. We just noticed that it's in the right side of the stomach. But let's actually talk about this. Actually, you know what? I'll change it. When you think about, or if I were to ask somebody to think about how they feel about their weight with regard to their health. For many people, there's maybe a sense of guilt or a sense of shame or something that has to do with their weight and their health. And if you had to name something that I know, I've watched your videos and I've seen the work that you've done and you've come far, but I'm speaking to somebody that is working on it actively right now. And why don't you go ahead and just pick an emotion that might be associated with the relationship between how you feel about your weight and how you feel about your health.
We talk about shame a lot. That just comes up with people a lot. Is this feeling of shame?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say that what we're working on is a feeling of shame for a moment. Notice where you feel it in the body.
Okay.
Give it a scale of 0 to 10.
Okay.
And that's where we begin. So let's try a round like this. Even though I know that there are health risks by being heavy.
I know there are health risks by being heavy.
Right. My doctor has warned me about these things.
My doctor has warned me about these things.
It's telling me about diabetes.
It's telling me about diabetes.
An increased risk for heart disease.
Increased risk for heart disease.
And even though I know she's right and it scares me.
And even though I know she's right and it scares me.
There's still a part of me.
There's still a part of me.
That says.
I
don't have to, I don't want to, and she can't make me.
I don't have to, I don't want to, and she can't make me.
And even though there's this little part of me that still says that.
And even though there's this little part of me that still says that.
Even though I know better.
Even though I know better.
I still accept that that's how I feel.
I still accept that that's how I feel.
Good. And even though I read in the paper.
And even though I read in the paper.
And I hear on the news all the time.
And I hear on the news all the time.
What I should be eating, what I shouldn't be eating.
What I should be eating, what I shouldn't be eating.
How one food's healthier, then it's not healthy, then it's healthier again.
How one food's healthy, and then it's not healthy, and then it's healthy again.
Heck, even the scientists can't make up their mind. How can I?
Heck, even the scientists can't make up their mind. How can I?
And even though I know that's a bunch of hooey and I still should get healthy.
And even though I know that's a bunch of hooey and I should still get healthy.
There's a part of me.
There's a part of me.
That says.
I
don't have to, I don't want to, and you can't make me.
I don't have to, I don't want to, and you can't make me.
And even though I know so much better than that.
And even though I know so much better than that.
I still accept that that's how I feel.
I still accept that that's how I feel.
Good. Even though that I know that I should be better at watching what I eat.
Even though I know that I should be better at watching what I eat.
I should eat smaller portions and eat less calories.
I should eat smaller portions and eat less calories.
I've heard it all before.
I've heard it all before.
I need to exercise more, less calories, more calories burned.
I need to exercise more calories burned.
I know all the things that I need to do.
I know all the things that I need to do.
In fact, I've tried it all before.
In fact, I've tried it all before.
And even though I know I need to lose some weight,
And even though I know I need to lose some weight,
part of me says,
a part of me says,
I don't want to, I don't have to, and no one can make me.
I don't want to, I don't have to, and no one can make me.
And even though there's a part of me that feels that way,
And even though there's a part of me that feels that way,
I still accept that that's how I feel.
I still accept that that's how I feel.
Good. I don't want to.
I don't want to.
I don't have to.
I don't have to.
And you can't make me.
And you can't make me.
I don't want to.
I don't want to.
I don't have to.
I don't have to.
And no one can make me.
And no one can make me.
Good. Top of the head, take a deep breath in and out. So we could do more rounds, but that's one approach of many different, because there are so many doorways into this, aren't there?
It's a powerful sequence, and it's a different sequence than I've done with anyone else that we've interviewed over the last couple of weeks. And I like what it's addressing, and it's addressing that child inside us that needs to feel in control and doesn't want to be pushed, and that has to be addressed, because if it's not, that part of us is going to try to exert control.
Exactly. And you know, the focus on the negative in EFT, so to speak, is what it's called, is the focusing on the reality of what's there already.
Yeah.
In fact, that's what's blocking us. And so I'm not a big believer in affirmations alone, because that's not the part that really has that strong voice in our brain, that really primitive part that was wounded traumatically in some way, small or big, is the one that really has control over us. And it's like a little kid saying, I don't wanna, I don't have to, and you can't make me, damn it. Right. And so that's in control.
And what I felt when I said that I felt like that I couldn't access that part of my stomach, when I felt it in my stomach and I didn't, it almost felt like it severed the control mechanism, that it was that part of me that was controlling me wasn't controlling me anymore. And that's what I felt. And that's what they talk about a lot with tapping, is that it severs the control of the emotion. You might be afraid of sharks, for example, but is that going to stop you from going swimming or not? That depends on how much control it has over you.
Right. It really is what we call a counter conditioning. In other words, we have a conditioned response from that shark that once we saw, and now it doesn't have. Now there's a neutral response, and we don't have to react from that really survivalistic way.
That shark that I saw, just I had a sensory experience, because I was 10 years old when I watched Jaws, and I had the worst sunburn I had ever had in my life, and I had blisters on my shoulders so bad that I had to put this much cream on just to have a shirt on. And I'm in the movie theater, and the shark comes out, and just as he comes out, a lady behind me takes her nails and digs them into my shoulders.
Oh my God, you're kidding. No. That is a sensory experience.
And those blisters popped like little packing bubbles. And I couldn't go swimming in a swimming pool for years after that because of that experience. But, those are the type of things that happen to us. They're totally random. And sometimes they're not so funny. And they control us. And if
they're powerful.
Yeah, and if we have a mechanism for blocking that control, severing that control, reconditioning, it's a really powerful technique. So I love the fact that you're getting to the root of that little kid that wants to be in control, and acknowledging him, and also taking away that need to feel control. So that's a really cool sequence. I like that a lot.
And it's acknowledging and saying, and you know what you feel is okay.
Yeah.
And that's an important part of that neural conditioning, is that acceptance.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, if people want to learn more about you, Dr. Weiner, how can we access you?
The really simplest way is we travel nationally and internationally, and we do online courses. And the easiest way to find out, my wife and I, Alina Frank and Dr. Craig Weiner, at EFTtappingtraining.com.
EFTtappingtraining.com.
So all our work is there, and you can find out a lot more there.
Excellent.
But it's really been an honor being on this, and I'm just really excited to see yours and Carol's work come out in a really big way and really transform the whole model of weight and weight loss and body image. It so needs to be reformed. Well, it's just fabulous.
I appreciate that. I really appreciate your time and expertise, and you also getting out there and changing the paradigm of weight loss and focusing on the real issues. I couldn't thank you enough. So
you're very welcome. It's my pleasure and honor to do so.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Dr. Weiner.
You're very welcome.
Take care. Okay, thanks so much everyone for watching today. I really liked Dr. Weiner's sequence because it focused on that little kid that's inside us that sometimes can want to exert control just for control's sake. So by focusing on it and acknowledging it, you can diffuse that energy and no longer be subject to the whims of a part of us that's just looking to, quote, self-sabotage us, when in reality, all it really needs is acknowledgement. So really, really good sequence. I also like the way he understood it and acknowledged and explained to us the relationship between traumatic experiences in our childhood and weight gain as a form of protection. Very, very important. And using EFT for that purpose is also important. So I hope you enjoyed the show, and I look forward to speaking with you real soon. Take care.